Today, I really want to talk about how we can stop guessing and start progressing when it comes to diet. This has been a simple, the conversation is simple. Making it happen is hard, right? But it's been a conversation I've been having a lot with a ton of clients recently and other coaches. So I want to kind of take it into a little bit longer conversation than just the small little tidbit of time I get on social media to try to record a video, right? So I want to take some time today, talk about two concepts that really help bring it all together for me in my own life. And before I understood this, I was spiraling, and there's nothing worse than feeling like you're doing everything right and you're just, kind of guessing along the way, but you're not getting any progression. And then you kind of continue that same cycle and you're not your ideal self. And something I've learned from my psychology courses, when we're striving for this ideal person and we're our actual selves right now, and our behaviors aren't lining up with that, right? And maybe we are, like, we don't realize, like, we're still trying hard, which those behaviors line up with where we're trying to get to. It's just what we're choosing to do, the behaviors we're choosing, the diets we're choosing, the exercises we're choosing aren't getting us that progression. But then we think in our heads, oh no, it's all me, it's my fault, I'm not doing the right things, I'm not anywhere closer to that ideal self. Now we have what we say is cognitive dissonance, which is pretty much a push and a pull between the person you are now and the person you want to become. And then, that can lead to a multitude of things. For some people, it helps us get back on track and realize, okay, I don't like this push and pull, and we start to figure things out and we start to dial it in. Sometimes we need a coach to help us with that. And other times, like myself, for a long time till I hired a coach, it sent me down a very spiraling path that led me to just cycles and cycles and cycles of frustration, essentially. Literally sitting there and just being so mad that I'm putting in so much work, but I don't see the results. Now, for me, it really did start with guessing wrong. Now, what do I mean by this? Let me explain. I'm going to grab a sip of water real quick. So, here's the thing. When I was guessing, I was assuming that I was doing a lot less activity and eating a lot more than I was. Now, for some people, for some of my clients, it's the reverse. They overestimate their amount of activity and they underestimate the amount of food. Now, regardless of that, one thing is clear. Understanding where we're at before we decide to make a decision on where to go is very, very important. Now, the more data we can collect, the better off we are, but we don't have to track for an entire year to be able to do this. I always tell people, hey, shoot for 14 days to a month of tracking. The reason why I say 14 days to a month, tracking is a skill. It takes time. So even if we mess up, we don't track every single day along those 14 to 31 days. That's why I kind of push it out to a month. Then that gives us a good amount of data to look at to actually pull on averages. Now, if we can pull on averages over a 14-day to 30-day span, a little bit more confident in making a decision that's not going to put us way far off from where we're currently at. Because here's what can happen. When we try to guess, and this is what happened to me, when we try to guess, like, okay, I'm guessing that I'm at, 2,600 calories. And this thing called my TDEE, which we're going to talk about today, says I should be at about 2,800 calories. So to build muscle, I want to be, 10 to 20% above that. So I'm just going to jump to that number, right? Let's say, for instance, that's 3,100 to 3,200 calories. Well, what happened? Well, for me, I dealt with a bunch of digestive distress. So I just wasn't feeling good, bloating, my bowel movements weren't good. TMI, I know, but it's for real. Like, I was just all messed up from a gut perspective. Now, this could be the food choices I was making, right? Also, even when I was trying to eat a little bit cleaner, it just felt like I was stuffing my face and it just hurt every single time. Also, I've gone like the dirty route to try to get in the calories without having to eat as much food. And then what happens is I have my macro profile off. I end up putting on more body fat than I really wanted to. And I don't like the results at the end of it. So what am I trying to say? Well, really, for me to get to where I wanted to go, I needed to understand BMR and TDEE and then decide, okay, cool. How am I going to track? How long am I going to track for? Now I can make a better decision based on where I'm at. Because let's say I start tracking, and this was the case, I started tracking, I was at 2,200 calories on average. A good day, 24. That's why I wasn't feeling good trying to eat 3,100 calories. I mean, some people can do it, and kudos to them. I wasn't that person, and in my experience over 9 years of coaching now, most individuals aren't able to do that. So let's take some time to talk about what BMR is, what TDE is, and then I'm actually going to start recording on my screen here, and we're actually going to dive in and walk through the MindPump macro calculator. They also have a weight loss calculator, but you need to be able to have your exact body fat percentage, and instead of like trying to guess that, I think, and this is how I've done it for all my clients, and it works pretty damn well, we can do it just fine with this other one. So BMR and TDEE. First and foremost, BMR, basal metabolic rate. I want you to think of this as the amount of calories your body is telling you it wants based on some metrics: height, weight, age, and activity level. Okay. Now, those amount of calories based with those metrics is the amount of calories your body is going to want essentially to stay exactly the same, right? To not lose a bunch of muscle mass, to not lose fat, to just stay who you are, right? Now, of course, the body is an adaptation machine, and it's not just going to die. So if you start to eat below the BMR, it's going to adapt. Well, what happens when we're eating below our BMR for most people? Well, a couple things. One, energy, mood, sleep, recovery, all that starts to get affected. It's a lot harder for you to feel good in those sectors of life when our calories aren't quite there, especially below what the body's calling for just for a day of sitting around the house doing not shit. Okay. Now, that being said, like I said, the body will also adapt. So then what happens? Well, it's really hard for the body to keep going when, let's say, we have muscle on our body. That's really hard to carry around for energy. So if we have a really busy life, we're really stressed, we're eating low calories, that's also stress. It needs to adapt so we don't die. Okay, so as long as we're getting those, some essential macronutrients in, protein and fats, it's going to keep going along. What it will do then is be like, okay, how do I keep chugging along this thing called life with so little resources being demanded or being asked of so much of? Well, what am I going to do? I'm going to adjust how I walk about life. I'm going to make sure I have less muscle because that's so hard to keep around. And I'm going to have more fat because fat is easier to use for energy than muscle is. And it's easier to store than muscle is. Right. So now we start to, even if we're at low calories and we start to lose weight, we're also probably losing muscle. Maybe we end up in that skinny fat zone. I've also been here myself. Right. So on the flip side, we have this other number or this other thing called TD, or acronym TDEE, total daily energy expenditure. Okay. What that is, I want you to think of the same thing we talked about with BMR, with your height, your weight, your age, your activity level. Now, the activity level part is your activities of daily living. Think of steps as a big way of looking at this. Like, what are we averaging in steps? And I'll kind of walk you through this when I open the macro calculator here in a second. But there's a couple different sectors you can choose from. Steps is a good thing to look at. And then we start to look at how many days a week are we training. And then we can look at, are we doing any sports or recreational activities or playing with the kids, going to the park on a regular basis as well. So all that makes up your TDEE. That's the amount of calories your body is saying that it wants based off of all those things to stay the same, to not lose muscle, to not lose fat, right? And to thrive, essentially, is how I look at this. Like, eating to thrive is what that is, even a little bit above. This is what I didn't understand, and then I did. Then I was like, okay. Then I had to start figuring out where I was currently. Okay, cool. Now I know where I'm at. Now I suggest when, let's say you're somebody who maybe is in between the two, even if you're below BMR, right? And you're trying to get up to TDEE, because even for those people who want to lose fat, right, we probably should work up to that number, or at least where like the lean body mass would be. So if like we had an equation, we can figure out our lean body mass, and I'll probably do an episode on this as well, where then we could build the calories based off that lean body mass and so on and so forth. But forget all that for right now. I want you just to think, okay, cool. I got my calories. Where am I at? All right, I'm below BMR. I'm below TDEE. Sweet. Let's do an increase. Now, if you're scared of putting on fat, right, you just want to put on as much muscle as you can to feel good, to perform your best, I would go in 10 to 15% increments. That means that you're going to take whatever number of calories you're averaging, you're going to times it by 0.1 to 0.15. That number, it's going to spit out a number. Let's say it's 250 calories, right? Now we're going to take that 250 and add it to that average amount that we just got. That new number, once we add the 250 to the average, is the amount of calories we're going to shoot for. Now, I highly suggest to always try to boost these calories from protein first. We've seen this time and time again. You know what? I'll link it down below. There's a podcast with Alan Argon and Angie Huberman. Great podcast. I love Alan. I actually got to work with him directly for a little while with NCI stuff. That was awesome. Shout out to you, dude. You are a genius. I actually have his book. You know what? If you haven't yet, check out Flexible Dieting. Not my book, so I ain't, shameless plug to Alan, but it's a great book. I actually am going to dive back into it when I'm on break from college here. But he talks about this a lot. He talks about how we've seen in studies, even in a calorie surplus, when those surplus calories are coming from protein, we see fat loss. So if we're going to start striving to eat a little bit more, I would always go for protein first, right? Now, if you're going in 10 to 15%, it's pretty easy to break that protein up per meal, right? 3 to 4 meals, or 3 meals, maybe a snack. So 4 times throughout the day looks a little bit easier, right? Now we keep doing that until protein, we can't really eat that much more. Maybe we're at like 1 gram to 1.5 grams per pound of body weight. See where we're at. Maybe we're close to that TDEE, but we still need to get up there. Now we can do another increase, 10 to 15%, but try to pull from maybe carbs. The nice thing is fats kind of creep up naturally along the way as we're pushing protein, because if we're getting it from those whole food sources, eggs, dairy products, sometimes the meat sources, especially red meat, getting the fattier options of red meat, right? Fattier options of meat, even like chicken thighs versus chicken breasts. That's always good. That's going to get calories up there as well. Good calories, healthy fats, right? Now, that being said, or I hate saying healthy fat. You know what I'm getting at. Now, that being said, then we can pull from carbs. Now, why do we want to do this? Well, I've seen people lose up to 10 pounds in a reverse diet working through this, because now the body is like, oh, hey, damn, we combine that with training. We combine that with good sleep. We combine that with hydration, and the body's like, yo, I'm ready to go, bro. I'm ready to put on some muscle. We start to put on muscle. We start to burn fat, and we start to body recomp. Okay, so I got to get going to pick up the kiddo here soon, so I want to dive in. Let's hop into the MindPump calculator and just get an understanding of what this truly looks like from a little bit different perspective. Okay, so let me get this going. We're gonna go no camera. Make sure we're still recording over here. I think we're good. Yep, we're good. All right, cool. All right, so let's do this. Continue. All right. So it's got to do a little countdown for me. It should be going here. Boom, we're here. So here's what this looks like. The MAPS fitness products. You're going to go to mindpumpmedia.com/macronutrient-calculator. I'll put everything in the description so you have it, along with that other episode I was talking about. Now, this is absolutely outstanding because it does all the equations for you. I've had to do the equations by hand until I found out about this. It takes quite a bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to scroll through here. You can feel free to read through this. It's going to talk to you it's going to tell you what is the macronutrient calculator, but we're going to skip past that because we're going to dive right into it, right? So here at the bottom, or in the middle of, I guess I should say, you're going to find the macronutrient calculator. It's going to ask you to select the units you want to use. For my friends overseas, it's really nice because I have a couple clients who are overseas. We can switch it from imperial to metric, so going from pounds to kilograms. feel free to do that. And it's going to change like your weight from pounds to centimeters, from your height from feet and inches to then centimeters. So it takes care of all that for you. Then I already have all my stuff in here. Actually, no, I don't. I have to re-enter it so we can do this together. I forgot I got it out of here. So how much do I weigh? I weigh 162 right now. So I'm going to adjust that. How tall am I? I'd love to say I'm 5'10", but I'm actually 5'8". I know. And then I am 28 years old. Now, here's what I was talking about with activity. How much do you work out per week? Now, I'm going to break this down super simple. If you are somebody who is averaging, 2,000 to 6,000 steps and maybe not training at all or training like once a week, I would say we're probably in the little zone. If we're not training at all and we're like that 2,000 to 3,000, I would say none. Just put yourself here to be safe and then see what happens as we just start to increase activity first, right? I think that should be the first goal if that's you. And also focus on the food too, but start to increase activity with the food. And the BMR and TDEE, the total daily energy expenditure number, I should say, will increase as well. Now, if you're somebody who's getting about 10,000, 6 to 8,000 steps, but you're also training 4 to 5 times a week, I would say it's safe to say you're a little to moderate. If you're somebody who's 8,000 to 10,000 steps, and then you're also training consistently throughout the week for, hour-long sessions, maybe 4 times, then I would say we're definitely in the moderate zone. Now, for me, this is kind of where I lie because I have a desk job, right? I'm doing this type of stuff, but when I had blue-collar type work that I've done in the past where I'm moving around, my steps are, easily 10 to 12K, plus my job is just very demanding, plus I'm training on top of it, I push myself into the a lot or a ton, depending on how hard I'm training. And then also, for me, if I add skateboarding in there, then I'm definitely toppling over into a lot or a ton. Right now, I would say I'm probably more so in the moderate zone just because of my step range ideally isn't where it probably should be. It's about 7,000. I'm trying to get that back up to about the 10,000 range. It's been kind of hard here at the desk job. But now we can scroll down and you're going to see, okay, what do I want to do? Well, I want to build muscle because I'm trying to put on some strength and everything right now. And boom, here we go. So now I can start to see, all right, basal metabolic rate, roughly 1,700. My TDEE is roughly 2,600. Now I know this is probably a little bit more towards 2,700 just because of myself and where I'm at in life. And I just know that because of how I maintain weight with where I'm at and how my calories average. And I eat pretty consistently throughout the week. Now, that being said, though, if you've never done this, it's probably pretty close. It's pretty close to me. Mine's a little bit higher, more like 2,700, but 100 calories off isn't bad. Now, here's where we can do some adjustments. Let's say I do want to build muscle, and I know that I average more like 2,700 calories, and then I'm like, okay, cool. What does 2,900 calories look like for me then? That puts me in about a 15% increase, just like we're talking about. Now, why do we want to do the 10 to 20%, right? I always kind of go in the middle and do 10 to 15 because here's the thing. When we're trying to put on mass or we're just trying to get our calories up to the TDE, to that thriving number the body wants to be at, well, here's the catch. If we go in 10 to 20%, especially the 10 to 15, we're at way less risk of putting on really relatively much fat at all and putting on mainly lean mass, right? So about 0.5 to 1 pound per week. If we're doing the reverse and we're trying to lose weight, we can do the same thing. And now we're looking at losing about 0.5 to 1 pound of fat per week while also minimizing any muscle loss. Not saying that some won't happen, but you're definitely going to minimize that from happening by doing that. Now for me, I go in here and I look at this. I'm like, okay, cool. I know I want my protein. So if I'm like 161 right now, I want my protein to be a little bit higher. I want it to be around 200 grams. So I'm kind of toppling that 30% mark. So 214 sounds good to me. Now I prefer a little bit higher fat because I like my eggs. I like my little bit fattier cuts of meat and stuff. And I just feel like I feel better from a gut perspective when I have it that way. So what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to go 25% fats. And then that gives me my carb number. So it's super simple. So now I have 214 grams of protein to shoot for, 82 grams of fat to shoot for, and then I have 326 grams of carbs. Now something I do is I have like training day calories and non-training day calories, but we're not even going to talk about that right now. We're going to save it for another video, but just know there's more to come. So that's kind of really all I wanted to talk about and show you, if you haven't done anything like this for yourself, to dive in, to try it out, to get an understanding of what does this look like? How does this feel to do this? And build the confidence, because once you do it, you're like, oh, okay, this is very doable. I could keep doing this. And I know you all can. So let's make it happen. Let's continue to be completely unbreakable humans. And let's dominate it. Let's dominate it out there, everybody. I mean, that's really all I got for you. If you have any questions at all about basal metabolic rate, about total daily energy expenditure, how to do this all, maybe tracking apps to look at, whatever it might be, feel free to check out the description. You'll find all my contact info down there. If you're one of my clients listening, make sure you shoot me a DM if you have questions, because that's what I'm here for. And I'm super pumped to do another one here soon. All right, everybody. Peace. Time to go pick up my kid. Let's go.